Now, this morning we're joined by legal practitioner Ife Ajayi. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, and good to have you. Good to be here.
All right. What do you make of the latest updates with the case so far?
Yeah, I feel the entire ordeal that has to do with the governor or the former governor of Kogi State has been quite unfortunate. From a legal perspective, I feel he has demonstrated he's not someone of good conduct or good character. He has also demonstrated that he's the kind of person that wants to take power but would refuse to be accountable after his tenure in office. And he's taken a whole lot of steps that demonstrates that he is intentionally obstructing the procedure of investigation and the administration of criminal justice in Nigeria. So it's quite unfortunate. And it is within his right to probably demand, if he wants to be tried in Kogi State, where primarily we can say the offense for which he's been alleged must have been committed. However, under our justice system, there is what you call the criminal law that you can be charged for within Kogi State, and you can also be charged for that same law in its failure. If the state government fails to charge him, they can also charge him at the Federal High Court, because it borders on corruption, it borders on monies that were generated from Kogi State or that was paid to him by the federal government. So I think it's within the right of the Attorney General to demand for that his charges be continued at the Federal High Court in Abuja. So that's much I can say about that for now.
I mean, you're saying he's well within his rights. What do you make of the argument by the EFCC's lead counsel, Dr. Kemi Pinheiro? He said that all of this is an attempt to frustrate a trial. Is that a position that has some sense to it?
Yeah, that's what I just summarized to you. That's what I summarized to our viewers. If I was the former governor of Kogi State, and for some reason I'm being charged for offenses bordering on my conduct or on actions and acts of corruption which presumably I must have committed while being governor. There's what they call the primary jurisdiction. Why couldn't he have been charged at the primary jurisdiction at the Federal High Court in Kogi State or in Lokoja? Why did the government choose to take it down to Abuja? And in doing so, apparently the government felt it would be able to tamper with the procedure of the trial, or he might be tampering with witnesses or intimidating witnesses. But the primary place of the crime, or where the alleged crime must have been committed, is in Kogi State. But then that's what I'm explaining, that at the same time, under our justice system, when the state government fails to take actions, just as we rightly saw that the state government is more like Yahaya Bello's protege. So that might probably not necessitate him taking action against his principal, his former boss, who is the former governor himself. So apparently the EFCC felt it was necessary for them to charge him at the Federal High Court in Abuja. Yeah. However, let's see how the judges rule on that position.
Yeah, I mean, while we wait for the judge's decision on that one, is this an indictment on the judiciary at the state level in Kogi State? If the federal government or the EFCC and everyone else who is involved doesn't trust that the case will go the right way if it goes back to Kogi State where the crimes were allegedly committed, is this an indictment on the state level judiciary?
I won't put it that way. Others might put it as an indictment on the judicial process in Kogi State. But one thing is certain, which you can bear in mind as well, is that if he was a former governor in Kogi State for 8 years, he must have been very instrumental, very influential in how judicial officers in that state were appointed or were nominated and came into office. They would have been career judicial officers that are very close to Yahaya Bello. And now that Yahaya Bello stepped as his tenure has expired or has come to an end, at the same time, the governor that was brought in, or the present governor, is, so to say, protege or a mentee of Yahaya Bello. So that will tell you that in that regard, there will be a lot of people within the justice system that pays a relative amount of sympathy to Yahaya Bello, and that might impede on the administration of justice in this instant matter. So I am thinking maybe that is why the EFCC thought it fit to have charged him at the Federal High Court, where he has less of influence, or he has less or no influence within the justice system in that space.
Oh, well, I mean, it still sounds like an indictment, whether they have soft, they have feelings for him or not, whether they have a strong relationship or soft relationship for him, still an indictment. That's what it sounds like to me.
Now,
on the state level judiciary.
I say it might not be an indictment because we haven't seen him charged there. We haven't seen them. We are postulating that just because certain people might be my friends, they might actually influence the process of the justice system there. However, there might be a few people that will stand up, just as you saw the red woman in Abia State, that will stand up and say, no, I'll do the right thing. Until that procedure is done, you won't be able to confidently say, oh, it's an indictment on the justice system there.
True. And I agree with you on that one.
Be cautious in the approach towards his prosecution, so to say.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you make a fair argument there. But I also want to ask, the EFCC under its new chairman, Lokoja, has made a lot of statements concerning this particular case. How much pressure do you think the agency is under to get one conviction right after many, many years of trying governors and not really getting any proper conviction?
There is this attitude, or there's this phrase from from the justice system in the UK, which I really, really admire, and I often try to quote in criminal matters, which basically says that the prosecution does not win or loses its case. It only presented facts before the judge. And if the judge looks at the fact and the law, then the judge must rule decisively. So if the EFCC presented facts before the court and the court feels the evidence do not support the facts enough, then the accused person must be let go. These are high standard of reasonable doubt. So the way the media might portray it, the way the press and everybody on social media might portray it, might absolutely be different from the case that EFCC is presenting before the court. So if the EFCC or the commission does not investigate and present an airtight case, there's a possibility that Yahaya Bello might walk. And that's the hallmark of our justice system. You won't allow an innocent person to go. You won't allow an innocent person to be convicted over an offense he may have not committed. So I basically think the EFCC are a very experienced judicial body, a prosecutorial body, and I understand I've dealt with them in so many regards, and I know they have a lot of professional people there, and pressure is part of their job.
Would you say that in the past, in the past years?
And I think
would you say that in the past years?
The work they undergo.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to follow up from what you've just explained, talking about your belief in the EFCC having an airtight case, or putting together an airtight case. Would you say that in the past year, seeing as we've not seen convictions of former governors, would you say that it's because the prosecution counsel hasn't done their due diligence, knowing that legal cases can be frustrated by technical, slight technical glitches, especially when they haven't done maybe their due diligence? So would you say that a number of them haven't done their due diligence before actually allowing the case to get to court, and thereby allowing it to be fraught with technical legalities?
If you look at over the past 8 years, so to say, or 10 years, we've seen a lot of wins and gains by the EFCC. We've seen a lot of cases they've won, even against former governors, former senators, former top politicians. And we've also seen a couple of cases they've really, really lost. But what I'm saying in essence is that what determines the victory of a case in criminal matters are, number one, the fact, then the investigation itself, then compilation of the investigation together to make a case and to bring a charge before the court. And most often, we know there might be pressure, there might be a lot of people trying to run around to ensure that this is achieved within the shortest possible time, thinking that this individual might flee the jurisdiction and probably retire somewhere abroad or in the Bahamas or somewhere. And many times that might impede investigation, because you can see how quick EFCC is trying to go about it to ensure that Yahaya Bello doesn't leave the jurisdiction of or the jurisdiction of the courts in Nigeria. So sometimes that can account for why they might not be able to achieve desired results. But what I'm saying in general is that when the case is tight, when the case is compelling, it will be too compelling that even if you bring it before Yahaya Bello's mom or Yahaya Bello's relative, they must convict or acquit him.
All right.
They must convict, and if not, they must acquit him.
All right. There's been updates as of yesterday that Adeola Adedipe, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, has applied to withdraw from the defense of former Governor Yahaya Bello. Now, the EFCC lawyer is saying that it's too late in the case for him to apply to withdraw. I mean, seeing as Yahaya Bello has not appeared in court for a number of times now, he's missed his court sitting. And, you know, the counsel had said that he did not sign an undertaking to ensure that his client must be present in court. You know, he would guarantee the whereabouts of his client. So, you know, talk to us about that. The court hasn't yet ruled on that. But how often is this sort of a valid reason? Because the EFCC's counsel thinks that is a ploy, again, to save face in some measure. So how often is this a reason that sort of stalls legal cases and the progress that can be made with regards to cases that have been brought before the court?
Very well. There's this thing called the cab rank rule in legal practice, which means just as you enter a cab from one destination, if you choose to go from Ikeja to Lagos Island and for some reason you decide to drop off the road, all you do is pay what is deserving to the driver and you go. There is nothing under our justice system that compels a legal practitioner to ensure that he will present his client, who is the defendant or the accused person, except, and in very rare cases, and I doubt if that's the situation, except if the learned silk, stood in his personal capacity as a surety to the accused person or to the defendant. But in this instance scenario, if he feels on personal reasons or on professional reasons, or he feels he won't be best served, he won't be in the best position to serve Yahaya Bello as a defendant or as a counsel in this regard, that there is nothing under the law saying he must be compelled to represent Yahaya Bello from beginning of the trial to the end. And there is nothing likewise compelling Yahaya Bello that he must choose or he must ensure that the lawyer represents him till the end of the trial. So these things are mutually agreed upon by counsel. If Yahaya Bello for some reason feels there's a breach in the contract of client attorney contract, that probably they presumably agreed that he would take the case from the beginning to the end, and that didn't happen, he has his right to always bring an action against the learned silk.
All right.
But I really know that there is nothing compelling both parties to ensure that they represent and be clients and attorneys to each other till the end of the deal. Prosecution.
All right, Ife Ajayi, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be following up with the state in the Yahaya Bello case, and we look forward to having you join us again for further conversation.
Yeah, I'm grateful. Thanks for having me.
All right. And now, if you're just joining, let's take you through a recap of the stories we've looked at this morning. Governor Fubara addresses Rivers State explosion. He's, of course, laid blame on the Nyesom Wike camp. Yahaya Bello calls for trial transfer to Kogi State. Is a conversation we just concluded with legal practitioner Ife Ajayi. Reps approved 2023 budget implementation extension. We had our reporter, Joseph Idong, extensively talk about that. But now let's share with you what's coming up next on Breakfast Central.